The crowd freezes. Bob grabs the guard's rifle and yanks it down. People gasp, cameras roll. But a second later, a sharp command rings out. "Stay where you are!" Now it's too late. London, Buckingham Palace. The crowd of tourists strolls leisurely across the square, snapping pictures of the guards as if they're part of the scenery. People speak in hushed tones, watching the silent figures in red uniforms with a mix of respect and curiosity. Cameras click, children stare in awe. But one element in this picture feels out of place. The crowd instinctively parts as a massive, unkempt man clumsily approaches one of the guards. Bob Wilkinson, a 40-year-old tourist from the U.S., moves as if he owns the world. His sweaty, bloated face, red from too much beer, glistens with droplets on his chin. A filthy leather jacket stretches tightly over his enormous belly, and the wrinkled T-shirt underneath, decorated with a cheap bar logo, is covered in greasy stains. On his head sits a faded baseball cap with an American flag tilted slightly to the side. In one hand he holds a plastic cup with the murky remains of his beer, and in the other, a phone he's been using to record what he calls those ridiculous British dolls. He exhales loudly, a smug grin spreading across his face as he eyes the guard with amusement. "Well, well, here they are, the famous wooden soldiers," he drawls, swaying slightly from intoxication. Standing before him is a motionless man in a red uniform, tall, lean, his expression unreadable. His bearskin hat rises high, a symbol of unwavering discipline. He grips his rifle firmly, but his face betrays no recognition of the tourist's presence. The crowd shifts uneasily. Some lower their cameras, others chuckle quietly, but most just wait, used to drunken antics like this. Bob swallows loudly, leans in closer, so close that his greasy face nearly touches the guards. His hot, sticky breath, reeking of cheap alcohol, washes over the soldier's face. "Not even gonna blink, huh?" Bob smacks his lips exaggeratedly, drawing out the words. The guard doesn't move. The crowd tenses. But that's not enough for Bob. He snorts, like a disappointed circus spectator, flares his nostrils, and suddenly lunges forward, grabbing the rifle with both hands. The crowd gasps. "Hey, are you trying to break it?" Someone shouts in alarm. But it's too late. Bob yanks the rifle downward, trying to wrestle it from the guard's grip. Shock. For a brief moment, everything, air, sound, time, freezes. And then, a thunderous voice shatters the silence. "Stay where you are!" Two officers spring into action, their boots pounding against the stone pavement. Bob flinches, his greasy fingers slipping off the rifle as he stumbles backward. His massive body teeters awkwardly, like an off-balance sack of potatoes. The worn-out soles of his ragged sneakers squeal against the cobblestones, and a look of pure confusion spreads across his sweaty face, like a man falsely accused of a crime he doesn't understand. "What did I do?" he bellows, eyes bulging. His chubby cheeks jiggle with the force of his scream, and a crumb from a half-eaten burger clings to his lips. The crowd doesn't freeze in fear. No, they freeze in anticipation. Eyes dart between one another, hushed whispers spread, some smirk, others pull out their phones, sensing the start of a spectacle. But Bob doesn't realize it yet, because before he can process what's happening, two Royal Security officers emerge from the crowd. They appear instantly, as if they had been waiting in the shadows for the right moment. Dressed in crisp black uniforms, polished to perfection, with white gloves on their hands, they move with quiet precision. No sudden movements, just an air of absolute control. One flanks Bob's left, the other his right, cutting off any possible escape. They tower over him, lean and disciplined, their faces void of emotion. Attempting to touch a guard's weapon is a serious violation. The officer's voice is calm, matter of fact, and yet Its weight is undeniable. Bob's mouth hangs open. He blinks, trying to process the words, but before he can respond, the crowd stirs. Murmurs turn to whispers, whispers to chuckles, chuckles to outright laughter. That fat idiot really tried to take the rifle? What the hell was he thinking? What a disgrace. Phones are lifted, camera lenses glinting under the sunlight like the eyes of 1,000 silent judges. Tourists type furiously, captions forming on social media posts that will soon go viral. Bob starts to realize what's happening. He's becoming a joke, but his drunk, wounded ego only has one defense mechanism: anger. His face flushes, veins bulge on his neck, his thick fingers curl into fists, and rage flickers in his eyes. He can feel their stares, not of admiration or sympathy, but mockery. They're not watching a victim. They're watching a clown. "Oh, come on!" he explodes, throwing his sweaty, pudgy hands up. His stained t-shirt stretches dangerously beneath his grimy leather jacket. "I just tried it. What's the big deal?" The crowd falls silent for a beat. Bob waves his arms wildly, sweat flying from his flabby skin. His chest heaves up and down, his beady eyes darting, searching for support, for someone to take his side. But no one does. "What? None of you have a sense of humor? It's just a rifle." His voice rises, turning shrill, desperate. But the people don't react. Some avert their gaze, others smirk in disgust. "They're here to protect the palace," a voice rings out from the crowd. A few nod in agreement. The whispers grow louder, opinions spreading like wildfire, and in that moment, Bob understands. He's completely alone. Anger boils inside him, rising like steam from a pressure cooker. But there's nothing he can do. He stands in the center of the crowd, yet feels like he's standing in a vast empty void. Bob gasps for air, his thick neck flushing red with rage as sweat drips down his temples. His massive hands shoot up, fingers trembling with fury. "Are you kidding me?" he roars, his voice so loud that even the farthest tourists turn their heads. His greasy hands flail in front of the officers, fingers clenching and unclenching, as if he wants to grab them by the collars but is too afraid to actually do it. But the guards don't even blink. They don't flinch, don't back away. Instead, they step in just a little closer, closing him in with the invisible walls of their presence. There's no aggression in their stance, just an unshakable authority. "You are being removed from palace grounds." The officer's voice is calm but firm. He doesn't raise it, doesn't threaten. He simply states a fact. Bob swallows hard, his lips quivering. He never thought it would go this far. "For what?" His voice cracks into a high-pitched whine. "I just touched the rifle." "That is considered an assault on a royal guard." The officer's words slice through the air. For a moment, the crowd goes completely silent. And then, boom, a fresh explosion of laughter, whispers and gasps. Phones lift, cameras zoom in, people point and snicker. "What an idiot!" A young guy in sunglasses cackles. "He thinks he can do whatever he wants." A woman in a white dress scoffs. "Kick him out!" someone shouts, and a wave of approving voices follows. Bob looks around, his thick neck jerking left and right as he desperately scans the crowd, searching for just one person to take his side, someone to say, "This is unfair." But he finds no allies. They're either mocking him or disgusted by him. A storm of fury churns inside Bob, burning in his chest, making his already sweat-soaked shirt stick to his skin. His breathing is heavy, erratic. He opens his mouth to say something, but he never gets the chance. The officers grab him by the elbows, and at that moment the crowd erupts in cheers, applause, whistles, mocking laughter. "Well, he asked for it. This isn't America, buddy." "Wave goodbye to the fat tourist." Bob struggles, tries to say something, but his voice is drowned in the deafening noise. The crowd no longer sees him as a person. He's a spectacle, a joke, a live show that's about to end with an embarrassing, unforgettable finale. Bob stumbles forward as he's quite literally shoved out of the gates. His massive body wobbles, his sweat-drenched shirt clings to his skin, and his greasy fingers flail in the air, grasping for something, anything to hold on to. But it's too late. Clang! The heavy iron gate slams shut in his face, the metal locking into place with a final, echoing click. One of the guards slides the bolt into position with a swift, decisive motion, severing any chance of return. The crowd erupts. Laughter, cheers, the flash of cameras, the roar of a victorious spectacle. People clap. Some film the grand finale, others crack jokes, reveling in the moment. Well, that's that. Biggest embarrassment of the year, dude. Did he actually think he could mess with a guard? Bob stands, frozen. His face, twisted in fury just moments ago, now reflects something else, pure, concentrated humiliation. His chubby lips tremble, his panicked eyes dart around, and his flushed cheeks turn an even deeper shade of red. He hesitates, takes a step forward, as if trying to say one last thing, but his voice drowns in the laughter. The crowd has already moved on. They're not talking to him anymore. They're talking about him. His disgrace, his viral moment, his fall from drunken arrogance to global embarrassment. And Bob realizes it. His shaking fingers dive into his pocket, fumbling for his phone. He unlocks it, his breath hitching as he opens social media. And freezes. The videos are everywhere. Bold headlines scream from the screen. Drunk fat tourist tries to break guard's rifle, ends in total humiliation. Don't mess with the royal guards unless you want to get thrown out like a clown. Instant justice. Royal security boots out entitled American tourist. The comment sections are flooded. Thousands of messages. People are laughing, sharing the videos, making memes out of his twisted, furious face. Bob stares at the screen, and his heart sinks. This isn't just a bad day. This is permanent. A failure immortalized on the internet. He glances back at the gate, a desperate flicker of hope in his eyes, as if someone will let him back in, give him a chance to undo it all. But the guard still stands there, his face blank, not even acknowledging him, and behind him, the same royal guard, the one Bob had spent the last 10 minutes taunting. Still there, still motionless, as if nothing had happened, as if Bob never even existed. The crowd roars with laughter. Tourists nod to each other in approval. Some step closer, snapping selfies with Bob in the background, a new London legend. But Bob hears none of it. In his mind, only one sound plays on repeat. Clang. The sound of the gates shutting him out, forever.